Rachel Morgan stood in the kitchen of her modest apartment in Portland, Oregon, staring at the adoption record she'd finally obtained after months of legal battles. At 32 years old, she'd always known she was adopted. Her parents, Linda and Robert Morgan, had never hidden it. But what she hadn't known, what no one had told her, was that she had a twin sister. The document was clear. Twin A, Rachel Marie, and Twin B, Rebecca Marie, born June 15, 1993, at Sacred Heart Hospital, Seattle, Washington. Mother, Jennifer Hayes, age 19. Father, unknown. Rachel's hands shook as she read the next line. Twin A transferred to Morgan family custody on June 16, 1993. Payment received, $50,000. Payment received. She hadn't been adopted through legal channels. She'd been sold. Her phone rang. It was her twin sister Rebecca, though Rachel hadn't known Rebecca existed until 3 months ago, when a DNA ancestry test had matched them as full siblings. They'd been cautiously building a relationship, video chatting weekly, planning to meet in person for the first time next month. Rachel, hi. I was just thinking about our trip. I booked my flight to Portland for... Rebecca, I need to ask you something. Rachel's voice was tight. Did you know we were sold? Silence on the other end of the line. Too long. Too heavy. Rebecca, I didn't know how to tell you. Rebecca's voice was barely a whisper. I found out 2 years ago. I've known since I was 30 that we were twins. I've known you existed. I've been searching for you. But Rachel, the circumstances of our adoption, our sale, it was complicated. Rachel felt the room tilt. You've known for 2 years? You found me 3 months ago and you didn't think to mention that we were trafficked as infants? It wasn't trafficking. We were sold, Rebecca. For money. Our birth mother was told we died, and we were sold to 2 different families. How is that not trafficking? Because Mom and Dad, my parents, they didn't know it was illegal. They thought they were saving me. They paid a lawyer who said it was a private adoption. They paid $50,000 for a baby and thought it was legal? Rachel's voice rose. Rebecca, did you know about me before you did that DNA test? Did you know I existed and you just, what, decided not to tell me? Another terrible silence. Oh my God, Rachel breathed. You did know. How long? Since I was 30, Rebecca admitted, her voice breaking. My mother told me on her deathbed. She said I had a twin sister who'd been adopted by a different family. She said our birth mother had given us up, that it was legal, that she'd always planned to tell me but never found the right time. She gave me your name, Rachel Morgan, but begged me not to search for you. She said it would disrupt your life, that you might not even know you were adopted. So you just didn't look for me? For 2 years you knew I existed and you did nothing? I was respecting her dying wish, and I didn't know the truth about the sale until I started digging into the adoption records after she died. Rachel, when I found out what really happened, that we were stolen from our birth mother and sold, I didn't know how to tell you. How do you tell someone their entire existence is based on human trafficking? Rachel's mind reeled. Her twin sister had known about her for 2 years, and had chosen silence, had let Rachel live in ignorance, while Rebecca processed the truth alone. I need to meet our birth mother, Rachel said. Jennifer Hayes. Does she know we're alive? I don't know. I haven't contacted her yet. I wanted to find you first, to have us approach her together. You wanted to control the narrative, Rachel cut in. You wanted to be the one who found me, who brought us together, who got to be the hero of the story. But Rebecca, you're not the hero. You're the sister who kept secrets, just like everyone else in my life. Rachel hung up and immediately began searching for Jennifer Hayes. It took 3 days and the help of a private investigator, but she found her, living in a small town in Washington, married with 2 sons, working as a school librarian. Rachel called her without warning. Hello? A woman's voice, tired, middle-aged. Is this Jennifer Hayes? Jennifer Hayes, who gave birth to twin daughters on June 15, 1993, at Sacred Heart Hospital in Seattle? A sharp intake of breath. Who is this? My name is Rachel Morgan. I was twin A. I'm your daughter. And I'm not dead. The sound that came through the phone was animal, a wail of grief and shock and disbelief that made Rachel's chest tighten. They told me you died, Jennifer sobbed. Both of you. They said there were complications, that you were premature, that you only lived a few hours. They wouldn't let me hold you. They wouldn't let me see you. They just took you away. I'm alive, and so is my twin sister, Rebecca. We were sold, Jennifer. We were stolen from you and sold to 2 different families for $50,000 each, $100,000 total. That's what we were worth. Jennifer was crying so hard she couldn't speak. Rachel waited, her own tears streaming down her face, feeling the weight of 32 years of lies crushing her chest. I want to meet you, Rachel said when Jennifer could breathe again. I need to understand what happened, who did this to us, and why no one has ever been held accountable. There were dozens of us, Jennifer said, her voice raw. Maybe hundreds. Young mothers, poor mothers, single mothers. They targeted us, told us our babies died, falsified death certificates, sold our children to wealthy families who wanted infants. It was a system, Rachel, a criminal enterprise that ran for decades, and no one was ever prosecuted? The lawyer who ran it died in 2005. The doctors who participated retired or died. The records were destroyed. Most families who bought babies had no idea it was illegal. They thought they were doing private adoptions. The whole thing just disappeared, except for the children who are now adults trying to find their mothers. And the mothers who spent 30 years grieving children who weren't actually dead. Rachel processed this. Somewhere in this equation was her twin sister Rebecca, who'd known the truth for 2 years and had chosen to keep it from Rachel, who'd controlled when and how Rachel learned about her own history. I'm coming to see you, Rachel said. Next week. I need to know everything. Who I am, where I came from, what was stolen from me. I've been waiting 32 years to meet you, Jennifer whispered. Both of you. Will Rebecca come too? I don't know. I'm not speaking to her right now. Why? What happened? She knew about me for 2 years and never told me. She knew we were sold and kept it secret. I can't trust her. Rachel, Jennifer said gently, I don't know your sister. I never got to raise either of you, but I know what it's like to carry an impossible secret. Maybe she was trying to protect you. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she was wrong. But she's your twin, your only sibling, the only person in the world who shares your specific story. Don't lose her over anger at a system that victimized all of us. But Rachel wasn't ready to forgive. She'd spent 32 years not knowing she had a twin. Rebecca had spent 2 years knowing and staying silent. That wasn't protection. It was betrayal. As Rachel booked her flight to Washington, she made a decision. She would meet her birth mother, learn the truth about what happened, and find out who was responsible for selling her, and she would do it without Rebecca. Her twin sister had chosen secrets. Rachel was choosing truth, even if that truth destroyed what little relationship they'd begun to build. Rachel stood on the porch of a modest house in Bellingham, Washington, her heart pounding as she rang the doorbell. She'd flown in that morning, rented a car, and driven 2 hours to meet the woman who'd given birth to her 32 years ago, the woman who'd been told she was dead. Jennifer Hayes opened the door, and both women froze. Rachel saw her own eyes staring back at her, the same hazel color, the same shape, the same way they crinkled at the corners. Jennifer's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God, you look exactly like I did at your age. Jennifer pulled Rachel into a fierce embrace, sobbing. I've dreamed of this moment for 32 years. I never thought it would happen. They sat in Jennifer's living room, a photo album spread between them. Jennifer showed Rachel pictures of herself at 19, young, scared, alone, pregnant with twins she'd never expected and didn't know how to raise. I was a sophomore in college, Jennifer explained. The father was a guy I'd dated briefly who disappeared when I told him I was pregnant. My parents disowned me. They were very religious and saw the pregnancy as a sin. I had nowhere to go, no money, no support. So you gave us up for adoption? Rachel asked. No, Jennifer's voice was firm. I never gave you up. I went to a clinic that promised to help young mothers. They said they'd provide prenatal care, help me find housing, connect me with resources, but it was all a lie. They were identifying vulnerable pregnant women, especially those carrying twins or multiples, to sell the babies. Jennifer pulled out a death certificate, yellowed with age. It listed Twin A and Twin B as deceased, died June 15, 1993, at 11:47 p.m. Cause: respiratory failure due to premature birth. They induced my labor at 36 weeks. They told me you were too early, that you were struggling. I heard you both cry. I know I did, but they rushed you away. Hours later, a doctor came and told me you'd both died. He showed me these certificates. He said it was better I didn't see the bodies, that I should remember you as alive, not dead. But we weren't dead, Rachel said, anger building in her chest. No, you were being processed, cleaned up, given false medical records, prepared to be sold to families who'd paid $50,000 each for healthy newborns. My grief was their profit. Rachel felt sick. How many babies? From that one clinic? At least 50 that we know of, probably more. The operation ran from 1985 to 1998. Young mothers, poor mothers, immigrant mothers, anyone vulnerable. They targeted women who wouldn't have the resources to fight back, who wouldn't be believed if they said their babies were stolen. Did your family ever find out we were alive? Jennifer shook her head. I carried that grief for 32 years. I had 2 sons with my husband Greg, your half-brothers. They're 14 and 12 now. But I never forgot you and Rebecca. I mourned you every June 15th. I visited the cemetery where you were supposedly buried. I talked to empty graves for 32 years. The doorbell rang. Jennifer looked confused. I'm not expecting anyone. But Rachel knew. Somehow, she knew. Rebecca stood on the porch, her overnight bag in hand, her face a mixture of determination and fear. She looked exactly like Rachel. Same height, same build, same hazel eyes, like looking in a mirror. How did you know where I was? Rachel demanded, not moving to let her in. You're my twin sister. Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out? Rebecca's voice was steady, but her eyes were pleading. Rachel, you can't do this without me. This is our story. Both of ours. You don't get to shut me out. You shut me out for 2 years. I was wrong. I was scared. And I made the wrong choice. But I'm here now. Please, let me meet our mother. Let me be part of this. Jennifer appeared behind Rachel. When she saw Rebecca, she made the same sound she'd made when she saw Rachel. A gasp of recognition and grief. Oh, both of you. You're both here. Against her better judgment, Rachel stepped aside. Rebecca entered, and within seconds, Jennifer had pulled both twins into her arms, crying, whispering, my girls, you're alive. You're both alive. Oh, they spent the afternoon piecing together the truth. Jennifer showed them documents she'd obtained through a support group for mothers whose babies had been stolen, medical records that didn't match the official story, witness statements from nurses who'd been too afraid to speak up at the time, records of financial transactions that showed the scope of the operation. Your adoptive parents, Jennifer said carefully, the people who raised you, did they know? Rachel looked at Rebecca. This was the question that divided them. Rebecca's parents had admitted on the deathbed that they'd known Rebecca had a twin. Had they known more? My mother said they thought it was legal, Rebecca said quietly. She said the lawyer told them it was a private adoption, that you'd chosen to give us up, that you'd signed papers. They paid $50,000, but they thought it was covering medical expenses and legal fees. That's what they all say, Jennifer said, not unkindly. And maybe some families genuinely didn't know. But Rebecca, your parents knew you had a twin. They knew Rachel existed. They chose not to find her, not to question why twins were being separated. That suggests they suspected something wasn't right. Don't talk about my mother like she was a criminal, Rebecca said defensively. She loved me. She gave me a good life. She bought a stolen baby, Rachel interrupted coldly. Maybe she didn't know she was committing a crime, but she participated in one. My parents did too. All of them did. So what are we supposed to do? Rebecca demanded. Hate the people who raised us? Reject the only parents we've ever known because they were part of a system they didn't fully understand? We're supposed to acknowledge the truth, Rachel shot back, that we were stolen, that our birth mother grieved for us for 32 years, that families who wanted babies badly enough were willing to overlook warning signs, and that you knew this truth for 2 years and kept it from me. I was trying to protect you. From what? The truth? My own history? You don't get to make that choice for me, Rebecca. You're not my keeper. You're barely my sister. I've known you for 3 months. You don't get to decide what I can handle. Jennifer intervened gently. Girls, please. I didn't get to raise you. I didn't get to see you grow up, to know your personalities, to be your mother. But I see now that you're very different people. Rachel, you want truth at any cost. Rebecca, you want to protect people from painful realities. Neither approach is wrong, but you need to find a way to respect each other's differences. How? Rachel asked. How do I trust someone who kept secrets? Who knew I existed and stayed silent? Who controlled when and how I learned about my own life? Rebecca's face crumpled. Because I was scared, okay? I found out at 30 that I had a twin sister. My mother was dying, and she used her last breaths to tell me this secret she'd carried for 3 decades. Then she begged me not to find you, to let you live in peace, to not disrupt your life with this painful truth. I was trying to honor her dying wish while also wanting desperately to know you. And when you finally did contact me, you lied by omission. You pretended we were just two sisters reconnecting, not two stolen babies navigating trauma, because I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to say, hi, I'm your twin. We were sold as infants. Our birth mother thinks we're dead, and the people who raised us were part of a criminal enterprise. And where's the script for that conversation, Rachel? The room fell silent. Jennifer looked between her daughters, these two women she'd never raised, who were strangers to each other despite sharing DNA, who were battling over secrets and lies, and the question of how to build sisterhood from trauma. I have a proposal, Jennifer said. There's a woman, Margaret Chen, who runs a support group for children who were stolen and sold through this operation. She's also a therapist who specializes in helping separated siblings navigate reunion. She's helped dozens of families process this trauma. I think you both need to talk to her. Together. Rachel wanted to refuse, wanted to maintain her anger at Rebecca, but she also knew Jennifer was right. They couldn't heal separately. The trauma was shared, even if their responses to it were different. Fine, Rachel said, but Rebecca, you need to understand something. You don't get to control my relationship with this information anymore. If I want to pursue legal action, if I want to go public with our story, if I want to contact your parents and confront them about what they knew, you don't get a vote. You had your 2 years to process this privately. Now it's my turn. Rebecca nodded, tears streaming down her face. Okay, that's fair. Over the next week, Rachel and Rebecca attended daily therapy sessions with Margaret Chen. They met other stolen children, now adults in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, all searching for birth families, all processing the trauma of discovering their identities were built on lies. The grief is complicated, Margaret explained during one group session. You're mourning the childhoods you could have had with your birth families. You're mourning the relationship with your twin that you should have had from birth. But you're also grappling with love for the families who raised you, even though they participated in your trafficking. That cognitive dissonance is extraordinarily difficult. Rachel and Rebecca also learned they weren't unique. There were multiple sets of twins who'd been separated and sold, siblings who'd grown up apart, children who'd been told their birth mothers were dead or had abandoned them. The system relied on isolation, Margaret said, on keeping birth mothers and stolen children from ever connecting, on ensuring adoptive parents didn't ask too many questions, on silencing anyone who suspected the truth. But now, with DNA testing, that isolation is breaking down. Families are reuniting, and the truth is coming out. By the end of the week, Rachel had made a decision. She was going to file a report with the FBI, documenting everything about the operation that had stolen her and Rebecca. She was going to push for a federal investigation into baby selling operations that might still be active, and she was going to tell their story publicly. Consequences be damned. I'm with you, Rebecca said. Whatever you decide to do, I'm with you. I should have been from the beginning. I'm sorry I wasn't. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet, but it was a start. 2 months after meeting Jennifer, Rachel and Rebecca sat in a television studio in New York, about to tell their story to millions of viewers. 60 Minutes had jumped on the story. Twin sisters stolen at birth, sold for $100,000 combined. Their mother told they were dead. It was the kind of human interest story that captivated the nation. Are you ready for this? Rebecca asked, adjusting her microphone. Once we do this interview, there's no going back. Everyone will know. Good, Rachel said firmly. The people who did this operated in shadows. They relied on shame and silence. I'm done being silent. The interview aired to massive response. Within days, the FBI announced they were opening an investigation into historical baby selling operations in the Pacific Northwest. Dozens of other families came forward with similar stories, babies supposedly dying at birth, falsified death certificates, private adoptions that seemed too easy, too fast. But the attention also brought consequences. Rachel's adoptive parents, Linda and Robert Morgan, released a statement through their lawyer. We believed we were participating in a legal private adoption. We were told Rachel's birth mother had chosen to place her for adoption. We had no knowledge of any criminal activity. We raised Rachel with love and gave her the best life we could. We're heartbroken that she's now portraying us as criminals. Rebecca's father, Thomas Sullivan, her adoptive mother had passed 2 years earlier, was more direct. He called Rebecca in tears. How could you do this? Your mother is being portrayed as a criminal on national television. She can't defend herself because she's dead. This destroys her memory. Dad, I'm not destroying Mom's memory. I'm telling the truth about what happened to me and Rachel. But you're making it sound like we bought you. Like you were merchandise. You paid $50,000 for a baby. What would you call that? The conversation devolved into accusations and tears. Thomas hung up, and he and Rebecca didn't speak for 3 weeks. Rachel faced her own reckoning. Linda and Robert Morgan invited her to their home, the house where she'd grown up, where her childhood bedroom still held her high school trophies and college textbooks. "We need to talk," Linda said, her voice strained. "Really talk. Not through lawyers or media statements." They sat in the living room where Rachel had opened Christmas presents for 30 years. Robert handed her a folder. "These are the documents from your adoption," he said. "Everything the lawyer gave us. We want you to see what we saw, to understand what we believed." Rachel opened the folder. Inside were documents purporting to show a voluntary relinquishment. Jennifer Hayes' supposed signature saying she was placing her infant daughter for adoption, unable to care for her, wanting a better life for her child. Medical records showing a single birth, not twins. A death certificate for the other twin who'd supposedly died at birth. "This signature isn't Mom's," Rachel said, pointing to Jennifer's supposed signature. "I've seen her real signature. This is forged." "We didn't know that then," Linda said quietly. "The lawyer was respected, had an office downtown, seemed legitimate. We'd been trying to have children for 8 years. We'd done IVF, tried surrogacy, been on adoption waiting lists. When he said he had a baby available, a healthy newborn, we were so desperate we didn't ask enough questions. You knew it was expensive. $50,000 in 1993. That's equivalent to over $100,000 today. Didn't that seem suspicious? He said it was covering medical expenses, legal fees, birth mother support. We thought we were helping a young woman who needed financial assistance during her pregnancy," Robert said. "Rachel, we were naive. We were so desperate for a child that we let ourselves believe a story that had holes. But we didn't know you were stolen. We didn't know your mother thought you were dead. If we'd known, we never would have taken you." Rachel wanted to stay angry, wanted to maintain the moral high ground, but looking at her parents, her adoptive parents, the people who'd raised her, she saw genuine remorse and confusion. "You knew I had a twin," Rachel said. "The documents show twin A and twin B. You knew Rebecca existed and you never tried to find her." Linda's face crumpled. "The lawyer said the other twin had died. He showed us a death certificate. We believed it. We grieved for the sister you'd never know. We never imagined she was alive and had been sold to a different family." Over the next weeks, as the FBI investigation expanded, more truth emerged. The baby-selling operation had involved at least 50 infants over 13 years. A lawyer named Richard Blackwell had orchestrated it, working with several doctors at Sacred Heart Hospital who identified vulnerable pregnant women. Young, poor, single, often from marginalized communities. Blackwell had died in 2005, but 3 of the doctors were still alive. The FBI arrested them, along with 2 nurses who'd participated in the scheme. The charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, falsifying medical documents, and human trafficking. Rachel and Rebecca attended the arraignments, sitting in the courthouse as the people who'd stolen their childhoods were read their charges. One of the doctors, now 78 years old, wept as he was led away in handcuffs. "Do you feel better now?" Rebecca asked Rachel as they left the courthouse. "Does seeing them arrested fix anything?" "No," Rachel admitted. "But it's accountability. These people destroyed dozens of families and never faced consequences. At least now they will. At what cost? My dad won't speak to me. Your parents are being vilified in the media. Jennifer is being harassed by reporters. Our half-brothers are being bullied at school because their mom is the woman whose babies were stolen. How much damage is this pursuit of truth causing?" It was a question Rachel struggled with. She'd wanted justice, transparency, truth, but truth was messy and painful. It hurt innocent people, the families who'd raised stolen babies without knowing, the siblings who were caught in the aftermath, the birth mothers who had to relive their trauma publicly. During one therapy session with Margaret Chen, Rachel broke down. Maybe Rebecca was right to keep the secret. Maybe knowing the truth is worse than living in ignorance. "That's not for you to decide for everyone," Margaret said gently. "Some people need truth to heal. Others need privacy. You chose truth. Rebecca chose protection. Jennifer chose public advocacy. Your adoptive parents chose quiet grief. All of those are valid responses to trauma. But Rachel, you can't carry the weight of everyone's pain. You told your truth. What they do with it is their choice. 3 months after going public, Rachel received an unexpected call from Linda Morgan. "I need to tell you something," Linda said. "Something I should have told you years ago." They met at a coffee shop. Linda looked older, worn down by months of media scrutiny and public judgment. "When you were 5 years old, a woman approached me in a grocery store," Linda began. "She stared at you, then at me, then said, 'That's not your daughter.' I asked what she meant. She said, 'I work at Sacred Heart Hospital. I remember that baby. She was one of the twins. Where's the other one?' I panicked and left the store. That night, I called the lawyer who'd arranged your adoption. He said the woman was mistaken, that she was thinking of a different baby. But I knew. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right." Rachel stared at her mother. "You knew when I was 5? I suspected. I didn't have proof, and I was terrified that if I investigated, you'd be taken from me. So I convinced myself it was a coincidence, a case of mistaken identity. I chose denial because the alternative was losing you. So, for 27 years, you've known I might have been stolen, and you said nothing. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I failed you. I chose my comfort over your truth. I'm no better than the people who sold you." Rachel processed this new betrayal. Everyone in her life, her birth mother who couldn't protect her, her adoptive parents who'd suspected the truth, her twin who'd kept secrets, had failed her in different ways. And yet, they'd all been acting from love, fear, or desperation. "I don't forgive you," Rachel said finally. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I understand. You were scared. You wanted to protect your family. It doesn't excuse the silence, but it explains it." Linda nodded, tears streaming down her face. "That's more than I deserve." 1 year after going public, Rachel and Rebecca stood together at a press conference announcing the Stolen Children DNA Database Act, legislation they'd co-authored with Senator Maria Torres that would require all states to maintain accessible DNA databases for adoptees seeking biological families. "A year ago, my sister and I barely knew each other," Rachel said into the microphone. "We'd been separated at birth, sold to different families, raised without knowledge of each other's existence. DNA testing reunited us, but for 32 years we were strangers. This legislation ensures that other stolen children don't have to wait 3 decades to find their families." Rebecca added, "The FBI investigation revealed over 120 families affected by the baby selling operation that trafficked us. Most of those families still haven't been reunited. This database will help change that." After the press conference, the twins walked through downtown Seattle, finally comfortable in each other's presence. The past year had been brutal. Therapy twice weekly, difficult conversations, moments where they'd wanted to walk away from each other. But slowly, they'd built something real. "I have a confession," Rebecca said as they sat by the waterfront. "When I first found you, I was jealous. Of what? Of everything. You seemed so confident, so sure of yourself, so unafraid to demand truth. I've always been the peacekeeper, the one who smooths things over, who protects people's feelings. Finding out about you, about how we were stolen, it shattered my worldview. And you just charged forward, demanding justice, not caring who got hurt in the process." "I cared," Rachel said quietly. "I just believed truth mattered more than comfort." "I know, and you were right. But watching you was terrifying because you were everything I wasn't. Brave, direct, unwilling to accept easy lies. I kept secrets from you not just to protect you, but to protect myself. Because once I told you the truth, I knew you'd do exactly what you did. Blow up everyone's comfortable denial and force us all to face reality. Do you regret it? Going public?" Rebecca was quiet for a long moment. "Yes and no. My relationship with my dad is still damaged. He's speaking to me again, but it's strained. He'll never forgive me for destroying Mom's memory, as he sees it. But I also feel free. I spent 2 years carrying this enormous secret, this impossible truth. Now it's out in the world. It's not just my burden anymore." They watched the boats cross Puget Sound. 2 women who looked nearly identical but had lived completely different lives. One raised with secrets and silence, one finally learning her truth. "I'm sorry I kept it from you for 2 years," Rebecca said. "I've said it before, but I need to say it again. It was wrong. You deserved to know. And I'm sorry I've been so hard on you," Rachel replied. "You were trying to honor your dying mother's wishes while also wanting to know me. That's an impossible position. I didn't give you any grace for that. We're both learning," Rebecca said, "how to be sisters, how to share this trauma, how to build something from nothing. That night, they had dinner with Jennifer and her husband Greg, along with their half-brothers, 14-year-old Marcus and 12-year-old Tyler. The boys had struggled with the media attention. Their mother's trauma had become public entertainment, their family's pain dissected by strangers. "Do people still bother you at school?" Rachel asked Marcus. "Sometimes. They ask if it's true that we have secret older sisters, if our mom is the lady from the news. If you guys are going to sue us or something." Marcus shrugged with teenage nonchalance, but Rachel could see the discomfort underneath. "We're not suing anyone," Rebecca assured him. "You're our brothers. We're family. But you're also strangers," Tyler said bluntly. "We didn't know you existed until last year. Now you're everywhere. On TV, in magazines, testifying at trials. It's weird." Jennifer looked pained. "Tyler, that's not—" "No, he's right," Rachel interrupted. "It is weird. Your mom lost 2 babies, us, and grieved for 32 years. Then we showed up and immediately made her trauma public. We didn't give any of you time to adjust before we went to the media. That was selfish." "It was necessary," Jennifer corrected gently. "Rachel, Rebecca, you both needed to tell your truth, and by telling it publicly, you helped dozens of other families find each other. You gave voice to birth mothers like me who'd been silenced. Yes, it was uncomfortable for my family, but it was also important." Over the next months, the extended family, Rachel, Rebecca, Jennifer, Marcus, Tyler, even Linda and Robert Morgan, began attending family therapy together. It was chaotic and painful, but slowly, they built bridges. 2 years after the revelation, the trial of the 3 doctors who'd participated in the baby selling operation concluded. All 3 were convicted and sentenced to prison terms ranging from 5 to 12 years. Rachel and Rebecca both testified, as did Jennifer and 7 other birth mothers whose babies had been stolen. Rachel's adoptive parents attended the sentencing hearing. Linda took the stand as a character witness, not for the defendants, but for the system's victims. "I was complicit," Linda said, her voice shaking. "I suspected something was wrong and I said nothing because I wanted to keep my daughter. I'm not a monster. I'm just a woman who wanted a child so desperately that I let myself believe convenient lies. I apologize to Jennifer Hayes, to Rachel, to all the birth mothers whose babies were stolen. You deserved better. Your children deserved better." After the trial, Rachel and Linda slowly rebuilt their relationship. It would never be what it was. Trust had been shattered, but they found a new understanding based on honesty, rather than comfortable fiction. Rebecca reconciled with her father, Thomas, who eventually admitted that he'd suspected the adoption wasn't entirely legal, but had convinced himself it was fine because Rebecca was loved and cared for. "I was wrong," Thomas told both twins during a family dinner. "I prioritized my desire for a child over your mother's right to keep you. I'm sorry to both of you, to Rachel for participating in your trafficking, and to Rebecca for the burden of living with this truth." 5 years after the DNA test, Rachel and Rebecca stood together at the dedication of the Stolen Children Memorial in Seattle, a monument recognizing the 120 known victims of the baby-selling operation, and the hundreds more whose stories might never be told. Jennifer was there, having become a national advocate for birth mothers' rights. Linda and Robert Morgan attended, as did Thomas Sullivan. Marcus and Tyler, now young men, stood with their mothers, all of them. 5 years ago, I learned I was sold, Rachel said at the dedication ceremony. That my birth mother had been told I was dead, that my twin sister had known the truth and kept it from me. I was angry at everyone, the criminals who'd trafficked me, the parents who'd bought me, the sister who'd stayed silent. Rebecca continued, and I was angry at myself for keeping secrets, for prioritizing protection over truth, for choosing comfort over honesty. We've spent 5 years learning how to be sisters, how to share this trauma, how to build family from the wreckage of lies. Together, they unveiled the memorial, a sculpture of 2 infants reaching for each other, separated by a wall that was crumbling at the base. "To all the stolen children," Rachel said, "to all the birth mothers who grieved, to all the adoptive families who participated unknowingly, to everyone damaged by a system that treated babies as commodities, we see you, we remember you, and we're fighting to ensure this never happens again." That evening, the entire family gathered at Jennifer's house. Rachel and Rebecca sat with their half-brothers, teaching them card games and sharing stories. Linda and Jennifer talked quietly in the kitchen, 2 mothers connected by impossible circumstances. Thomas and Greg watched football, finding common ground in normalcy. "We're not a normal family," Rebecca observed. "No," Rachel agreed. "We're a family built on trafficking, lies, DNA tests, and 5 years of brutal honesty. But we're real, and maybe that's better than normal." They raised their glasses to truth, to justice, to the painful work of forgiveness, and to the understanding that family isn't always built on love at first sight. Sometimes it's built on showing up, telling hard truths, and choosing each other even when it's easier to walk away. Rachel looked at Rebecca, her twin, her half-stranger, her sister, and saw not the person who'd kept secrets, but the person who'd finally chosen honesty. And Rebecca looked at Rachel, her twin, her truth-teller, her sister, and saw not the person who'd blown up their comfortable lies, but the person who'd demanded they all live authentically. "I'm glad you found me," Rachel said quietly. "I'm glad I finally told you the truth," Rebecca replied. And in that moment, surrounded by the imperfect family they'd built from trauma, the twins who'd been stolen and separated finally felt like they'd come home. Rachel Morgan Hayes stood in the hallway of her home in Portland, adjusting the frames on the wall, a gallery of photos that told an impossible story. There was the picture from the dedication ceremony 5 years ago, a candid shot of her and Rebecca laughing at Jennifer's house, a formal portrait of the entire extended family taken last Christmas. 12 people connected by DNA, trauma, love, and choice. Her daughter, Emma, now 3 years old, toddled over holding a framed photo. "Mama, who's this?" Rachel knelt down, looking at the image Emma had chosen. 2 infants in hospital blankets, taken moments after birth. Twin A and Twin B, Rachel and Rebecca, together for the first and last time as newborns, before being separated and sold. "That's me and Aunt Rebecca," Rachel explained. "When we were brand new babies, we were together. Then some bad people separated us, but we found each other again when we were grown-ups. Like a story," Emma said with 3-year-old simplicity. "Exactly like a story. A sad story that became a happy one." Rebecca arrived an hour later for their weekly dinner, a tradition they'd maintained for 10 years now, rarely missing a week, despite busy schedules and the complications of life. She brought her husband and their twin boys, 5-year-old Logan and Lucas. "They exist to prove the universe has a sense of humor," Rebecca joked as the boys raced past, identical in every way. "I spend 32 years not knowing I'm a twin, then I give birth to twins. At least yours are actually identical," Rachel teased. "We just look similar." Jennifer arrived with Greg, Marcus, and Tyler. The boys, now 19 and 17, had grown into thoughtful young men who'd become fierce advocates for adoptee rights and birth mother support. Marcus was studying social work in college. Tyler volunteered at a crisis pregnancy center, helping young mothers access resources. Even Linda and Robert Morgan came, bringing Rachel's favorite dessert, apple pie made from her grandmother's recipe. Their relationship with Rachel had healed slowly over the decade, built on radical honesty and the understanding that love could coexist with harm, that people could be both victims and participants in injustice. Thomas Sullivan, Rebecca's father, video called from Arizona where he'd retired. His relationship with Rebecca had fully healed after years of family therapy and his own reckoning with his role in the trafficking. As they sat around the expanded dining table, 12 people who formed a family that shouldn't exist according to any conventional definition, Jennifer raised her glass. 10 years ago, I got my daughters back. The daughters I'd mourned for 32 years. The daughters I thought I'd buried. I never imagined this. A full table, grandchildren, a family built from the worst trauma of my life. But here we are, Rachel echoed. Built from theft, lies, DNA tests, media scrutiny, trials, therapy, and about 1 million difficult conversations. And love, Rebecca added. Don't forget love, the complicated, hard-won, imperfect kind. Marcus stood, clearing his throat. I want to say something. When Rachel and Rebecca first came into our lives, I was 14 and angry. My mom's trauma became everyone's entertainment. People treated us like a freak show. But watching you both over the past 10 years, watching you fight for legislation, help other families reunite, turn your pain into purpose, that taught me something about resilience, about choosing to make meaning from suffering, and about telling the truth even when it's hard, Tyler added, even when it hurts people you love. You both showed us that honesty matters more than comfort. Linda spoke next, her voice thick with emotion. Rachel, I need to say this in front of everyone. I participated in your trafficking. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but ignorance doesn't equal innocence. I should have asked more questions. I should have investigated when that woman recognized you at the grocery store. I chose denial because it was easier. I spent 10 years trying to earn your forgiveness, and I know I'll never fully deserve it. But thank you for letting me stay in your life anyway. You're my mom, Rachel said simply. Biology didn't make you my mother. Raising me did. What happened when I was an infant wasn't your fault. What happened when I was 5 and you suspected the truth but stayed silent? That I had to learn to forgive. But Mom, you've shown up for 10 years. You've told the truth even when it hurt. You've supported me even when I was angry. That's what mothers do. The evening continued with the easy rhythm of family. Children playing, adults talking, dishes being passed, laughter mixing with occasional tears. At one point, Rachel and Rebecca stepped onto the back porch together, watching their children play in the yard. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we'd never found each other?" Rebecca asked. "Sometimes. I'd probably still be living in comfortable ignorance. You'd probably still be carrying the secret. Jennifer would still think we were dead. The doctors who trafficked us would have died without ever facing consequences. Would that have been worse?" "Yes," Rachel said firmly. "Truth was painful, but it was real, and it led to this, to us, to this family, to legislation that's helped hundreds of other families reunite. The pain had purpose. Not everyone agrees. There are families from the investigation who chose not to go public, who wanted to keep the secret. Are they wrong? No. They made a different choice. But Rebecca, you and I, we needed the truth. We needed justice. We needed to build something real rather than living in comfortable fiction. That was the right choice for us, even if it wasn't the right choice for everyone." Rebecca nodded, then smiled. "Remember when we first met? When I called you after you got the DNA results? You mean when I found out I had a twin sister and you forgot to mention we'd been sold as infants?" "Yes, I remember. I was terrified of you. You were so direct, so unafraid. I thought you'd hate me forever. I almost did. But then I realized you were scared too. You just handled fear differently than I did. You tried to protect people from pain. I tried to expose it. Neither approach was wrong. We just needed to find balance." 10 years, Rebecca marveled. 10 years of sisterhood we got back. 32 years we lost. Sometimes I mourn the time we didn't have. Me too, Rachel admitted. But I also know, if we'd been raised together, we might have been completely different people. The trauma shaped us. The separation made us who we are. I wouldn't change what happened, even if I could, because changing it would mean losing this, losing the family we built, the advocacy we've done, the people we've helped. They stood in comfortable silence, 2 women who'd been stolen as infants, separated and sold, who'd found each other through DNA and built sisterhood through brutal honesty and unwavering commitment. Inside, Jennifer called them for dessert. As they walked back into the warm, noisy house filled with the family they'd reconstructed from lies, Rachel thought about the memorial they'd dedicated 5 years ago. 2 infants reaching across a crumbling wall. The wall had crumbled. They'd reached each other, and somehow, impossibly, they'd built something beautiful from the wreckage. "Ready to go back in?" Rebecca asked. "Always," Rachel replied, "as long as we're going together." And hand in hand, twin sisters who'd been strangers, who'd become family, who'd chosen each other every day for 10 years, they walked back into the light.